And so we were comfortable, and I was happy. I was going to the office, and finally I got a job with Russell Cooney, and who promised me, that, well, he's getting up in age, and if he should die, then I would get all of his clients, with the exception of Temple University. He said, no Temple University, but you get the other clients. So anyway, things went on, and until Russell Cooney got sick. Then he just walked out, and that was the end of that one. You understand what I mean? I got nothing. So anyway, I then had to start my own business. Here again, we were no persona non grata. Nobody would want anybody like me. I can't. I understand. What they're thinking. Today there are partnerships all over. Temple people are in every one of them. That sort of thing. But in my day, it was entirely different. And so you either started your own office, or that was it. So I had to start my own office, and I did. And so I didn't do badly. And kids came along. Your mother, we wanted you to go to Waldron, and we did not want you to go to St. Callistus. So anyway, we paid the bills there. And as I said, it was Auntie Kay. At Waldron, the nuns treated you extremely well. Do you understand what I mean? In other words, no, they didn't treat anybody there like they treated them very well. So it was, but one of the things is that I noticed, all the fathers there were like me. You understand what I'm saying? In the irregular grade schools, the father was 22, 24, 26. But with Waldron, most of the fathers were 34, 36, something like that. And the reason being, of course, that they all had to get their educations, and then they had their children. So it was fine. I didn't mind that at all. And then the rest about Waldron, and then getting on to Radnor. But I always admire you kids, made that decision to move. As I say again, you kids have made your decisions.
What, the decision to move to Radnor?
Yeah.
We made the decision?
Didn't you know that? You don't remember it?
Remember.
You don't remember it? Well, I'll tell you. What happened was, it was becoming a little difficult for your mother to take you down to a place below there in wherever it was, I forget. But a distance from our house to catch the bus to go to Waldron. And there was other things that you kids were thinking about. It was a question of whether you wanted to go to Waldron. So or stay in Waldron or go to Radnor. And I said, okay, now I want you kids to decide, the two of you. That's it. So you two kids went upstairs, and I heard you talking, And I heard it on for a couple of hours, and then I think the next morning Tom came down and said, Dad, we want to go to Radnor. Uh, so I said, off to Radnor we go. And then we signed you up and everything went, very well. I think you do. I think kids did like Radnor better than Waldron. Am I right? Maybe you didn't, but...
Well, I remember living in Villanova and still going to Waldron for a while. Driving down there
Yeah, you
every
did.
day.
You did. You did.
That was 4th grade for me.
Yeah. But, you decided and everything went well.
Why don't you tell a favorite story about each of the kids that you remember? Young kid stories. Do you remember much?
About you as young kids?
Start with Tom and then...
Well, I don't really... one thing I do, I get so fed up with these people who say, I raised that child there and he owes me. Well, I never felt my kids owed me anything because I had a ball with them. There was one time I hurt Tommy badly, and I must admit I didn't really expect it. I said, I'm leaving. I said, Mother, I'm leaving. I'm going to go away from you. And Tom got tears in his eyes, and I thought, oh my God, I just meant it as a joke, it's fun. And so then I went and hugged him and told him, about the thing. I don't ever remember any jokes or any funny things. Maybe give me a time and I can talk, find out. But or the time, Tommy was in his class and the nun said he wants to play the piano. He put his hand up and we had to run out and buy a piano for $600. Or how at your first communion everybody wore blue suits and you wore a gray one and another person wore a gray one and the other person that wore the gray one was a black kid, and Sister the head nun said, well, thank God Brian wore the gray one. Then it won't seem as if he's the only one outstanding.
Okay, you're on. I'm going to turn up.
Well, Tom remarked the other day and wanted to know something about my father. And then I started telling him about my father was a bootlegger. And my mother used to tell us all the stories about how he would get the whiskey together and then they would go down into Philadelphia. In those days, they had big cars. And with the big cars, she could put the case of whiskey in the back seat. And my mother sat over the whiskey, and then she covered her feet with it. And they were stopped a number of times, and she was very scared. But still, they brought it down to Philadelphia. And also, she met him during World War I. There were a lot of her cousins. They were meeting guys in the army, and all that sort of thing. And anyway, but I do remember at night, I don't really know when, where I was down the cellar capping things. It was you put the bottle under it, the metal there, and then you push it down. And I was always told it was root beer. Why should I know differently? But when he kept the store that I told you about, he was doing all right with that store. He had, you know, gambling in the bag. He always got a portion of the pot because he had it there. And very few kids ever went in there and bought anything. And but old man Grundy, he was a political power until the day he died up there. He lived on the waterfront, which is absolutely nothing to do with us, except I mentioned his name when old man Grundy in his great big limousine gave my mother a lift. I'll talk about more about my father. As I said before, I don't think that poor sucker could take 5 kids and a wife. You know, he'd give up and run. And he ran. And it was always very, in the back of his mind, no question about it. When he was dying, he lived with this woman here for 40 years. And when they said, "What's your mother? What is your wife's name?" He said, "Lillian." So, you know, there was no question about it when my mother asked for the benefits. But hold off a minute. Now, what has become a Wilson family story? It's an old legend, and it's about Indians, but very great men. The chief had 2 sons, and he wanted a certain stone which was far away. Now, it was quite a distance. In those days, of course, you didn't drive or take a train or plane. You walked. Now, you know, understanding those days is very essential. So then, one morning, both brothers took off. Now, they went different ways. One brother ran and became very, very tired. So he sat down when he found a pool and put his feet into it and just relaxed. And
Jeff's home.
Both Indians, by the way, their names were Falling Rock and Broken Arrow. So anyway, when this one Indian comes to the pool and wetting his feet, and he is, for sure, he's a very strong, he feels he's much stronger than his brother, so he thinks he can get there and get the particular stone his father wants. It isn't the stone that the father wants because it's a test. And what you would say, the less athletic child, he takes off and he is running and running, and now he can't walk as fast as far as his brother, but he's all right. He comes along. Now, days go by, the years go by, and the months go by. Neither one of the sons has been found. It's a long journey into that. Now when they do get there, they all of a sudden find that the more athletic one, who is Falling Rock, looks back at his brother way down on the mountain, and he knows that he's ahead. So he keeps climbing and climbing and climbing, and it took him a full week to climb that one mountain. But the other boy, he just come on, and he just climbs the mountain. Now the second boy gets there, and he finds a stone. Now he is on his way home. But that mountain was terrible on his health, so he must recuperate. And he had to stay on the top of the mountain for a month, so that his feet and his hands and all the members of his body could be healed. Then, Falling Rock, he's a very good. He goes right down that mountainside, and it was there that nobody knows what happened after that. The brother on the top heel climbs down the mountain, and he's much better, so therefore he can make better time. And he starts running, and he runs, and he runs, and he runs. And it takes him, as we said before, it took him a long time to move that particular amount of space. And then one day he gets home, and he sees his father. And when his father tells him he is the first one home, he's surprised. He says, "Where is Falling Rock?" And nobody knows. So the father sends out all the tribesmen, find broken rock, Falling Rock, and they all go out. All the Indians go out and look. Chief sent out all the Indians, and they looked and came back. It had taken them 6 months to leave and try to find Falling Rock. And then they came back and they said, "Mr. Chief, we cannot find Falling Rock." Then the chief said, "All right, I want 10 men to go to Washington, D.C., the capital of this great country, and see whether they can find Falling Rock." So the warriors went to Washington, and they came back to the chief and said, "They don't pay any attention to us. We're only Indians." Then the chief became indignant, and he demanded that he was going to Washington and find the big chief, which he did. And he sat down with the big chief, and he said, "Mr. Big Chief, I have lost a son, Falling Rock. He has been lost to me nigh this 2 years. And the president, the big chief, he doesn't know what to do." So the chief says, "Send out your couriers, put signs everywhere, and they can read Look out for falling rock. Could be said much better.
No, you're out of practice. You haven't done it for 15 years.
That was the longest version I've ever heard.
Oh no, there's long
There's very
versions.
long versions. But it all depends on how long you want to make it. You know, if the people are very interested, you keep on going. But anyway, the kids in my life have been a lot of fun. Now you understand the story of Jeffrey. When he doesn't like the name Jeffrey. He wants to be Larry. Then okay, fine, we'll call you Larry. Then he wants to be called Irving. Well, I had to give him a look at that, Irving. But if he wanted to be called Irving, okay. And but the last time he came, he wanted to be called Jimmy. Now that was a much nicer name, I thought, for him. So I said, okay, we'll call you Jimmy. And then I think when he thought it over, he came back and said, Dad, I want to be called Jeffrey. I said, okay, Jeffrey, we'll call you Jeffrey.
You should have said, okay, Jimmy, we'll call you Jeffrey.
Or the time that Jeffrey wanted to leave home. When he said, Dad, I don't want to live here anymore. I said, all right. Now, however, we'll have difficulty for a few days in finding a place for you to live. And but you can live here, and that'll be all right with us. However, when you live here now, you're not my son, so you will call me Mr. Wilson. Well, he forgot a few times and called me Dad. I said, Mr. Wilson. Oh yes, Mr. Wilson. And it was about 3 or 4